Yeah, hi there. I want to talk about a little bit about what's happening or in Iran and some of the parallels, similarities of what had gone on in the past. So, when I see all the revolution on the streets of Iran, it does take me back a long, long time ago when I was a youth, and the first revolution and the fall of the Shah of Iran. Now, what is particularly interesting for me is that back then, probably before, or any of you sort of can remember, there was a situation whereby the revolutionaries, who were predominantly Islamic Muslims, took 53 American hostages from the US Embassy, and they held them in captivity for about literally almost like a year. And this was under the President Carter administration in the United States. And you can imagine America was still licking its wounds from the Vietnam debacle, and they had this situation where their own citizens were being taken and held hostage by the Iranian revolutionaries, and it was causing global embarrassment for the United States as to what to do about this, because really the Iranian revolutionaries were sticking their finger up at the United States, literally biting hand that had fed them to create this revolution in the first place, I suppose. Don't know why they engineered it, but that's what they were doing. So the USA, after the whole world was looking at them, decided to mount a rescue operation to extract services protected evacuation, something which British airborne forces used to practice, still practice quite a lot today. And so they organised an extraction situation, probably based on Kolwezi, similar to what the French and the French Foreign Legion Second Rep Étranger did in Africa about a year before, 1978, I believe. And based on that type of stuff, or the raid on Entebbe, yeah. So with this sort of ideas in mind, the USA carried out a rescue operation to get these hostages free. And unfortunately, it was an unmitigated disaster. Yeah, it was a total disaster. The operation was called Operation Eagle Claw. It was an unmitigated disaster, resulting in the actual crashing of the helicopters and aircraft, which were actually deployed to actually rescue the hostages. So you had this embarrassment of the hostages, over 50, being held by these new revolutionaries, and then the embarrassment of the USA's military response in trying to save those hostages. Great embarrassment. It was etched in everyone's mind about the USA, and it was a bit of a stain on their logistical military, if you like. Okay, so that was in between end of 1979, and oddly enough, around mid to late April, this was when that Operation Eagle Claw happened, and it was a disaster. Now, oddly enough, less than a week later, we had the situation in London, where in the Iranian embassy, subjects were being held hostage there. And so the world's attention turned to Britain and how Britain would resolve this situation. Now, to be fair, given the circumstances, logistically, the odds were very much in the favour of Britain because it was on home territory. But everyone wanted to see those hostages taken and rescued safely. So after about a week of negotiations, Margaret Thatcher suddenly allowed and gave the thumbs up, the green light, for a little known regiment. Previous to that, that regiment was sort of known predominantly in military circles, but not really to the wider public. A bit like 148 Battery, if you like. Most people heard of 148 Battery. Yeah. Outside the military, they're not that well known, but they're highly respected. So she gave the task to this little known regiment. That regiment, as all the Walter Mitty group chats will tell you, was comprised of about 10,000 people who helped the rescue of the hostages in the Iranian embassy. I think there was about at least 500 people on the balcony at the time who rescued those hostages. And the reason for that is because it was global. Everyone had in their mind about the failures of what happened in America, literally the week or few weeks before. And so they were looking at Britain and how we would handle this situation. And that rescue was textbook, unmitigated success. It was brilliant. And I would say that that was the time that the word or the regiment, the Special Air Service, came into the public consciousness. And unfortunately, the regiment has never been the same. The glow on them has burned even up to now. Even up to now. In fact, now it's gone out of control. People are actually writing books about it and this and that. Before, you'd never get that sort of stuff. Yeah. The secret SAS become less of a secret now. They've even got programs on it, doing it, aspiring stuff. But at the time, it hit the public consciousness like its music predecessor or this music contemporary punk rock. Yeah, it was with a bang like that, the way in which they rescued those hostages. And we're talking around minutes, that success. So what does that mean for today? Well, certainly President Trump will have that in the back of his mind, Operation Eagle Claw, because the last thing they want is to be active in Iran and it to be a failure like it was with, back in the day. Now, obviously, the recent events of the kidnapping of the Venezuelan president is one thing, but Iran is going to be another in the American consciousness. So it's, as we used to say in the old days, watch and shoot, watch and shoot. Let's have a look at what happens and the Americans' response to this, because really they need to kick the door in of that regime to make sure it doesn't surface again. And I believe that this is possibly the right time in which to do it. I'm not too sure what the so-called coalition of the willing are prepared to do about it, or whether or not they see it as their sphere of influence, because they seem to be very, very narrow-minded in their focus and their ability to move and flexibility on world events. But trust me, the world will be watching about what America does. Now, in my experience, America's got a big history of G'ing up uprisings. They done it in 1956, the Hungarian uprising, G'ing them on, saying, opposed Russia, the Soviet Union, and blah, 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 and they did nothing. They left them out to dry. And America has been good at doing that, okay? So, we will see. Anyway, I thought I'd just leave that, something for you to think about, and we can watch about what's going on in the near future, how it pans out.